Hello, everybody. Hello. Are we ready for another miniature?
Yes.
Okay, we're live. So anyway, today we're going to be doing Tiny Dancer. It's actually a pattern that was designed by Julie Herman, but it's really an old pattern. And I have this quilt from my home. It's an antique quilt. It's probably made in the early 1940s. Wow. And I just wanted to show you this pattern's been around for a long time. So Carol, I would probably go on that quilt so they can see that quilt over there. Thank you. And you probably want to go like way out so you can see. It's really planned. I mean, I love the way she's totally balanced all her colors. Yeah. Yeah, it is like a dancing. Yeah, so it's really fun. I wanted to show that to Julie, but I didn't get a chance to show her yet, but I told her all about it. I got it a few years ago. Maybe she is watching. I told her I was doing this.
You know, when you see it on the screen, you can really see it.
Yeah, isn't it pretty?
Yeah, it's really pretty.
And I love the... Actually, Dylan, my son, found it. And his Mom, you need this quilt. And I'm all, yeah, I need that quilt.
So did you buy it for you?
No, he didn't buy it for me, but I think it's really nice.
But he found it. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, it's really nice. Real authentic fabrics from the 1930s and 40s, so that's really great.
That zigzag work.
Yeah, so anyway, but this is the first one that I made, and this is the size that we're going to be doing. They're all made from charm packs, and this was a charm pack that was by Kaufman, and it was their interpretation of Liberty lawns. And I don't know if you're familiar with Liberty lawns, but it's really fine cloth out of England. They used to make clothing. It like resists wrinkles. It's really nice fabric. So that's that, and then this is my little leftovers on the back.
Oh, I love it.
So when you're cutting your fabrics today, the way I can show you how to get those little squares left over.
So charm pack is 5-inch square?
5-inch squares in the charm pack. This is going to be your kit today. So that's what we're going to make. And you can make this in a day. So anyway, I did not piece this back. Yeah. I did not piece the back, but isn't it cute?
Oh, yeah, I like it.
That is.
I love
It's so much like your orange.
I know. I had to do the orange thing. Yeah.
And the border really shows up pretty well. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. So let's get started. Real bias binding. We can get rid of this because we've now started, right?
Yeah.
I'll do an Eleanor and throw it on the ground. So having done this a few times, I found out there's an easier way or a harder way to do this. And the first thing we need to do is we're going to use 30 of our fabrics, and they're going to be paired. So that means we're going to have 15 sets of fabric. So when you open up your charm pack, luckily for you, it is all kind of color coordinated in an order. So if I skip the one that's doubled and go to the next two, can you see how these sort of go together? A light and dark of that fabric. And as you go down, you can just keep doing that. You don't have to spend all this time really coordinating all that. And that's why I'm trying to get across with this first little picture going on. Okay, it's like a green family, a blue family, a yellow family. And you just want to keep those paired up together, okay? And be aware that down in the bottom of this charm pack, there's a bunch of blues. Because what I did when I was doing it the other day, I used all my orange and red and yellow group, almost had all my 15. I go, oh, wait a minute, I'm missing all these blues. So make sure you kind of get equals of all the color families, because that's what I didn't do. There's 42 in a charm pack. They're always between 40 and 42, but you only need 30 of them. So if you make a mistake, you have extra, right?
Thank you.
So that's good.
You can make bigger, right? Use all your charm.
You can make bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that's about that. So that's the first thing that you're going to do is separate out your fabrics. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to cut the fabrics. And I chose just to use this little mat. We have some really nice Fiskar rotating mats, or any small mat will do. Okay, this is just what I happened to find this morning. And I layered these two colors on top of each other. Yep, that's good. I'm glad you can see the contrast. And the first thing is we're going to cut 3 strips that are 1.5 inches wide. Okay, I recommend that you have a nice sharp blade in your rotary cutter, because it just, a dull one, you're going to be fighting it. So we're just going to do 1. Okay, this is the second one. Okay, so that's 2. And of course my mat's so little I can't see the other side of it, but. And you should have some at each end. This is one of those projects you really don't have to worry about your little, where your zigzag is, you know, your pinks, and think if do I have to be at the top of the pink or the bottom of the pink, what's going to be, because you're just going to cut that off. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to pile this all up so I now have 6 layers of fabric. Okay, can you see that? This is the ruler that was designed to go with this project. It comes in a larger size too, but we're just going to be using the mini one today, and this is included in your kit because this is something you really have to have this tool. It's really fun to do, and I'm going to show you a fun project at the end of what to do with it as well. So the first part of it, if you look right here, this is your half hexagon, and that's what we're going to be cutting first. So when I place it down on my fabric, can you see how I placed it just down on the line? Where you see it's really dark and it says Jaybird Quilts, that's going to be the finished portion of my patch, which is good to know if you're fussy cutting and you want it like a bird in there or something like that. That's where that's going to be. So the first cut I'm going to do is I'm just going to go down one side, okay, and then I'm going to take off that little tip. That's so we can match it up really well. And the reason why I suggest you use a little mat is so you can just rotate the whole mat. Okay? And so you have those to cut off and those to cut off. And then you have your perfect little shape. Okay? So there you go. So we got that. The next thing we need to do is we need to put our little white point on it. If you look at the finished quilt here, can you see how this is like my half rectangle? And then this is my little triangle.
Right. Like a candy corn. You point that out again.
Yeah, look at like a candy corn. Like here's this. So here's what we just cut, the half, and then this is the other little triangle. Well, in the original instructions, she had you cut the little triangle with the other side of this ruler, okay? And then you sewed them all individually to your half rectangle. Now, one of the points is cut off, so you don't have to worry about that, but you had to go back and cut off all those little tips. So I thought it'd be easier if we just took a strip of fabric, okay? And when you look at your strip of fabric, they're folded. And think how it comes off the bolt, okay? That's how you're going to know which is your right side and wrong side. Your right side's going to be the one that has the fold that sticks out. Okay, that's why sometimes I cut things in half and I go, okay, we won't have that hint. And this fabric's very hard to tell right from wrong. It's the other right. They're very good, Sally. That's good positive thinking. Okay. So now we're going to go over to the machine. Okay, and I'm just going to layer these down, and we're now at the illustration on top of page 2. Okay, and I am just going to layer this so the short side of this hexagon is right along the edge of our fabric. Okay, I'm not even going to pin these. I'm just going to get them started, and I'm just going to, I like to leave a little bit between. Don't butt it up because it'll make it cutting apart a little bit different. But you can kind of see in the illustration about how far I do it. And this goes so much faster than putting on the, because you don't have to hold on to the little triangle. And I just,
This is so clever of you.
it really makes it a lot. That's why we get a quilt in the day. I know. It took me half the time to do the second quilt from the first quilt because of not having to cut off all those little points.
Oh, you did it the other way first?
Mm-hmm. Until when I was doing, because I like to do it, you know, a few days before class, so it's really fresh in my mind. And I thought, oh my gosh, what am I thinking? There's a much easier way. Okay, now you are able to get 3 different sets of colors on one strip, but I'm just going to demonstrate on one strip or one set of colors for you today. Okay. So this is how it's going to look. Isn't that pretty?
Yes.
Okay, now we want to make sure that the way that we press it, we don't have to worry when we sew them together, there's not going to be one seam that's going to flip back. I got them all pressed going in the right direction. So we'll take this over to the mat. And we'll say hello to our iron that's not leaking. Yay. Okay, and make sure that you set your seams really well. Okay, and I even have like a little moisture in there just to get it wet. The biggest problem you might run into is getting a little pleat when you go to press it open, and you want to avoid those pleats. Okay, so I actually open it up like this and I finger press first, okay, just to make sure I get it started. And you're going to press toward your background. Typically I would not do that, but in this case I am. Okay. And if you do happen to get a little pleat, once they're cut apart, you can just go ahead and iron that out. This pattern is really forgiving, believe it or not. It looks complicated, but it is not complicated at all.
I'll bet this is not how this lady did this big quilt.
No, I'm sure she did it piece by piece, right? Okay, so now it's all ironed. Okay. So now I'm just going to take a straight edge, and I had my 4x14 out, but your 6x12 will work, you know, anything like that. And the first cut I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut it even with that half hexagon. Okay? So that's my first cut. Okay, the next cut that I do, I don't want to accidentally cut that off, right? So just fold it up, expose what you want to line up, and just keep it underneath. And the picture that I gave you, you'll see that. And I want to point out that this is the tip that we just made. It doesn't have to be exact, but just as a guideline, if you keep this the same as these two sides were cut, you're going to be just fine. It doesn't have to be exact. I can't tell you that enough. But that's a good something to use as a gauge. Okay, so I got one cut. And I'm just going to go down and continue doing it till I get to the other side. See how easy these are to cut? You might have this done today before you go home.
What time do you close?
Today, what is today, Thursday?
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock.
So making a little flat edge
Uh-huh, and you want that flat edge because you don't want the point to be sticking out where it gets caught in your 1/4 inch foot. It's like when we do the AccuQuilt, all those engineered corners.
Have you made this quilt with the AccuQuilt half edge?
No, I have not. We should try it.
Sue,
Mm-hmm.
is there, on that, the original ruler, the little guy,
Mm-hmm.
is it the shape of the entire piece?
No, it's not. I know. I thought, oh, we could just put the entire piece up. But in order to do this, you'd put it up like this. But you still have to worry. You don't have anything to hold down the piece you're holding up.
And now you got regular ruler bigger.
Don't have any,
Yeah.
doesn't have anything to hold the piece down.
Right. Another trick that I'm doing here when I'm cutting, I am making sure that my ruler, like I am holding my finger over that background piece because I want that. You know how things slip at the end?
Right, yeah.
I'm avoiding that by holding my finger down like that. Okay? So there we go.
Sew those two strips together and lay that ruler on there.
Exactly. Exactly. So that's all the cutting that we need to do. And now we need to layer them out. And if you go to bottom of page 2, I'll do it in your direction so you can see. Okay. One's on top. And you're going to make these, and you notice that the one on top, and I chose my colors to be just like what I put in the illustrations. I think it's easier to follow, especially first time around. Can you see how I started with a dark, a light, and a dark? And these are going in a clockwise motion, okay? And I'm going to sew both halves the same way. But the next one I'm going to do is I'm going to do light, dark, light. A good way to know that you have the ones in the right position is in this little middle. This is going to be a big half hexagon when we get this completed. These all have, they're all the colored pieces, not the backgrounds. You should not have any backgrounds going towards the middle. Okay? That's how you know you're doing good. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to flip the center patch right sides together to the one on the left, like this, and we're just going to sew down. And when we sew, notice our seam is going in the correct direction. I'm not fighting it going uphill. And when I start my 1/4 inch, it's going to start at this little corner right here and hopefully end up at that little corner right there, and that should be my 1/4 inch. So wish me well, because I'm going to attempt to do this. Okay, when I start to do this, I always, if I can, I like to put my needle into my fabric before I start, just to get it started. Also, if you have a little jumper fabric, that's always really nice. Okay. I'll put my jumper in it, and then we're going to look at it and see if we did it right. Okay, now I'm always going to see how this is no seams in here, but there is a seam on the other side. So I'm always going to press it to where it's the long piece of fabric. I never want to have to fight that seam. Okay. Okay, that looks pretty good, right? Okay, seam is going that way, seam is going that way. And we want to make sure that it's going that way when I take the one on the right and flip it over to the one on the middle one. Okay, it's going to look kind of like a funny little shape. But I want to make sure that seam's in there before I start to sew. See, this is really easy, isn't it?
Getting them to meet perfectly in the middle is not good.
Actually, getting them to meet in the middle, they just fall into place, amazingly enough. No, we're gonna go over and how it's actually the overall construction. Okay. The aha moment's about ready to come. Okay, so these are like half hexagons, right? Do we all see that? It's like a pieced half hexagon. Okay. Again, I'm going to put my seams to this long, so my seam is going that way. I showed you a picture from the back so you can see how everything lies nice and flat. So now I'm going to go over, I'm going to press these with the iron, and we're going to line them up on the flannel board. Okay, so that's what it's going to look like when it's all in the quilt. But when we do this quilt, it's really interesting, and I'm going to go, I'll just go right over here to show you. Can everyone see that? Okay, I'm going to lay out my patches. Okay, there's that one. Okay. And once you lay them out, then we can go around and switch them and mix the colors up. You don't want a predominantly yellow on one side. Actually, it's further down. The ones on the first, third, and fifth rows are whole hexagons, and the ones on the second and the fourth are half hexagons. So like I would just put like a blue half there, okay? The other blue half is going to go over here somewhere. Okay? So let's make the other one this nice green. And we'll put the other half one here. Okay. Then we can go back and fill in. So let's put this one in next. They do. Okay. Oh, it'd be really pretty in silver. So we just kind of mix up our colors. I just love it. I think the colors are just so bright. I love them.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, they really do.
And some people don't, kind of stay away from using solids. But I think the solids are so rich in texture these days. Yeah, these are Kona cottons. Yeah. They're celebrating their 30th anniversary. They had this big contest going on at Quilt Market where they had all the colors and you had to pick the names to the colors. Then you got this Kona Cotton RQ thing. I did okay, but it was a lot of guesswork. Okay. Yeah, you got like either one of these charm packs or you got a bag or. Isn't that nice?
Yeah, they just look like very happy.
Okay. So how we sew these together is we make columns. You're going to sew this seam, this seam, this seam, and this seam. Then so you're going to have a total of 6 columns, and then you flip your columns together and sew your seams. And when you get to that, that is where we're just going to have our match points right there. Okay, and you're just going to stick a pin in where that matches and one where that thing is, and that will keep it in line. One other thing I want to show you, if you went just to sew one of these things together, okay, you could use a paper, you know those paper piecing that we all know and love. This is a 2-inch one, and all I did was just like baste it onto it. And I just drew lines so I could determine the center of my paper, and I just pinned the center of my patch. So this would be really cute. You're talking about doing ornaments. I mean, how cute is that? In red and green with white. So that's like another little possibility. Anyway, I did add on a picture of the quilting. As you know, those who know me, I don't do a lot of my own quilting, but I'm trying to step it up a little bit, at least on the little ones, and do it. But this is just a real easy little quilting design that it's like continuous motion. And it went really fast. Okay?
Nice job.
So, is there any questions?
No, it's good.
All right.
But give us a minute.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in. Yay.